This video is going to be about my daily art studies. We're going to cover the routine and practices that I generally do that allows me to draw fairly decently within a year of practice. And this is not a secret. Most of these are already out there, so I'm just sharing how I structure my studies based on what I gathered from professionals I stumble across the internet. Now, of course, it depends on what you're trying to accomplish, but here we're going to centralize our study to my art, which usually involves characters. So here, I came up with 3 study categories. Each of those studies have their own difficulty and time frame, and longer study time doesn't always equal more improvement. It is important to have a consistent hour of quality study rather than studying the whole day. I mean, it could probably work, but consistent study is definitely more effective, so make sure to do it every day. But take breaks once in a while so you don't burn out. Human reference studies. This category covers 50% of my studies. I always say this, but copying is the most effective way to learn how to draw. Anything goes as long as you're drawing real-life humans, but we can get specific with our studies. If you're interested in drawing like this stuff, then you should absolutely learn anatomy. Here's a quick guide that I use to learn anatomy. We're not gonna go on full details here since I've already made a couple of videos about it, so here's a short version. So first is shapes, then skeleton structure, and finally, proportions and muscle anatomy. I'm still focusing on maximizing my skills to draw humans, or at least get decent, so most of my studies comprise of anatomy drawings. This video is brought to you by Universe. If you're looking to showcase your work, or if you're a business owner wanting a standout website, having an online portfolio is key. That's why today I'm going to share a great tool with you. This is Universe. Universe is a super user-friendly drag-and-drop app that lets you create custom websites right from your iPhone, iPad, or computer. With Universe, you can grab a .com domain and easily customize your site to make it truly yours. Whether you want a sleek portfolio to show off your art, a shop to sell your prints, a link in bio page to organize your online presence, or even a blog to share your creative journey, Universe keeps it simple and fun. As an illustrator, I wanted my website to reflect my unique style and vision, and I made sure it does just that. You can dive in and design from scratch or explore their templates for inspiration. What I especially like about Universe is the simplicity and convenience. It doesn't take you a lot of time and effort to design a really good website. Their diverse templates design makes it easier and less of a hassle to find ideas to make your own interesting website. One cool feature is the doodle block, which lets you draw directly on your website. It's a cool way to add a personal touch and showcase your creativity. Did I mention how quickly you can set up a store with their sell block? It's perfect for artists in the United States. You can even sell digital prints directly from download block. And if you're outside the United States, no problem. The PayPal block helps you accept payments globally. You can start creating your website for free with Universe. And if you want to unlock more features like selling and additional customization, you can upgrade to Universe Pro. Prefer a larger screen? Just head over to this link to edit on your computer. And Android users can still create amazing sites right from their phone's browser. Click the first link in the description for 25% off your first year of Universe Pro, or use the second link to try Universe for free. Big thanks to Universe, and that's it. Let's go back to the video. Here's the routine that I follow. So first is anatomy study. Let's say it's day 1. This day, I want to start studying how arms and torso works. And here's an example of what my reference board looks like. I just copy a set of anatomy parts that I feel like doing that day. I mostly do breakdowns and analyze the reference topic. It's mostly just me trying to figure out which shape represents the anatomy best. It usually takes me around 5 to 20 minutes to sketch a single decent output, and I would spend no more than 1 to 2 hours studying a subject because I tend to forget stuff that I study. So I prioritize short and concise study, and I think 1 to 2 hours is a bit long, but you can always go further than that if you have time. Also, I think before going to bed is the best time to learn stuff, because I heard about some scientific fact where you can retain most of what you learn before going to sleep. So maybe it's giving your brain time to process that information while you sleep. And I think it works because I also tried this when studying academically. Now, if you have trouble finding time to draw, it's easier if you have a pen and paper always in reach of your hand, like in your desk or bag. Always carry one, because the problem is probably not that you're tired or busy. It's probably because you're intimidated or overwhelmed with drawing, and you always have this expectation of drawing like the artist you watch on TikTok that has worked 10,000 hours honing their craft, and you feel like you can draw like them easy. But once you fell short of your own expectation, you are left disappointed and unmotivated. And honestly, that was just my experience. But if you also have this experience, then here's how I fixed it. First tip is just draw what you like, and if it doesn't work, well, that's probably because of your lack of skill and knowledge. So you just have to study and practice. And to do that, we just have to start drawing. Don't even think about what you're gonna draw, but instead, think about something simple, like drawing a square, circle, cube, or even just a line. Because it is important that you touch that pen and draw something on a paper. It's actually harder to start drawing than to keep drawing. So you have to make it easier for yourself by making drawing convenient. The trick to consistency is once you manage to draw for a month, it will be less like a chore and more of a habit, since it's become like brushing your teeth. And speaking of that, when you brush your teeth, you have this mindset that it's gonna keep you healthy and clean. You can also keep that mindset when you're drawing. You have to realize that every practice you do, you're essentially improving, even if you don't feel like it. For day 2, I'm moving on with the head. Here's my usual approach when studying something. First, I divide my work into bite-sized information. You don't just draw the face, you also need to have methods that will make it easier, like the Loomis head method. Then, we'll study the anatomy of the head, which is comprised of the skeleton structure, muscle, facial features, portions, and then style/design. Now, I left style and design for last because you have to learn all of those fundamentals I mentioned first before you start going in with the style and design. When I was a beginner, drawing the head was the first thing I learned because it's the most interesting and eye-catching subject in art. And it's different to what I'm doing now because back then, it was mostly traditional pencil portraits because I noticed it easily impresses people when you can draw faces. So I continued to draw faces, but I thought it was easy since all I'm doing is copy a face. I slowly gravitated into anime art. I actually liked anime first, that's why I even start drawing. But like I said, realistic faces catches more attention. But I grew out of it, so I started drawing anime. At first I was copying them, but I didn't just want to copy anime. I wanted to make my own. Do my own characters, poses, design, composition, expression, and style, so that one day I can make my own comic or even animation. But I didn't have any idea on how to improve that. So I just started what self-taught artists would do. Go on YouTube. I soon learned that to draw from imagination, I had to not draw from imagination. So yeah, you actually have to learn from scratch and study fundamentals and combine that with copying and learning from real life. So I was actually on the right track, since I was already copying faces. So I continued learning from real life, but this time I had a purpose. That's when I started getting into the fundamentals. And now I'm currently still mastering anatomy, which I enjoy very much. Once you finish studying the head part, we're now gonna move on to the other parts. It's also important that you learn how to schedule your practice. For example, you can study the head part for a week and then move down to the body. Even if you still don't know how to draw the head, it's gonna be easier if you just go back to it after you learn something else, because now you're gonna have a different perspective. And sometimes you might learn something from your other study that can help you figure out with your previous one. Also, avoid getting stuck on a single drawing. Always try to move on to the next one because you're only gonna get frustrated and bored. You also might get tunnel vision, which is bad, of course. It is important to get the whole picture when you're drawing, metaphorically and literally. I actually rarely zoom in on a drawing unless I'm doing the details. Most of the time when I'm drawing, I always see every part of my drawing. This way, I would notice any mistakes that I make right away, and I would never find those mistakes if I'm always looking closely. So sometimes you just have to step back and look at the picture in a different angle. Another practice that you could do to learn the whole body fast is practicing figure drawings, which takes about 1 to 2 minutes. This is typically done fast to avoid scrutinizing over a single image. You have to draw fast and move from one reference to another. This forces your brain to make quick decisions and prioritize the shapes that really matter. This will get you an overall feel for poses and will help you lay the groundwork for mastering anatomy. Every time I draw something, I always try to minimize my pen strokes, because the more experience you get, the more confidence you gain on your lines, and the more accurate you become with your intentions. Want to draw a box? Do it with single lines, or at least try to. Not like this, because now there's doubt and uncertainty. Also, there's a difference between sketchy lines and chicken scratches. Sketchy lines gets a pass because they are loose and light, and they will ultimately get you to where you're going. Chicken scratches, on the other hand, has these short lines that are repeated to achieve outlines. When I started, I was doing this, And I think most beginners do. The more you practice, the more accurate and precise your lines become. But at the end of the day, you can just do whatever you like. But personally, I like my lines clean and precise. At least I try to. For me, I develop a sketching method where I stick to my loose sketch and then refine them on the same layer, which is something that a psychopath would do, but I just really like it that way. Now we're heading off to value studies. Value studies is not limited on human subject. It could be anything as long as it has proper shadows. The art could be realistic or even semi-realistic. Value studies is where you're going to focus on grayscale studies, and it doesn't really matter if you're going for a non-realistic art style. Knowing basic lighting can literally change your mind, and knowing more is always better than knowing less. We're gonna need a bunch of black and white reference because it's convenient. Plus, having a colored reference would mean more work and processing, since you now have to think about color theory, which is a whole lot of problem on its own. So with black and white references, you'll only have to worry about what's in light and what's in shadow. It's a great way to have a division for your lighting. Okay, let's have this study, and we'll use this reference right here. We're only gonna use two values, one for the shadow and one for the light. See how well we can work out a drawing just by painting the shadow part. After that, let's add the local values, or the design colors of the character. And from there we can add some midtones and blend some edges. This is the part where you need to have a careful observation from the reference. The hard part starts here. This is where you train your eyes to see shadows and values, and combine that with proper decision making. And to help you with your decision making, you're gonna base it off this ball of value. This can help you identify which values you are looking at. Now, it's not going to be easy, but you'll probably get the hang of it within a year. What I'm doing here is mostly just copying what I see from the reference. Having a deeper understanding of how light works can definitely help you, but right now, I'm copying it raw. Most of the time, I turn my brain off doing this phase because thinking too much doesn't really help. I usually just rely more on my experience and instincts when copying references. Because when you're studying something long enough, that knowledge becomes like your instincts. But of course, it's gonna be different if you're gonna draw from imagination. That's where you really have to be analytical and really think about it. If you want to try out different practice, you can break down a bunch of paintings, or you can learn from grayscale tutorials made by professional artists. You can find them for free here on YouTube, and I would highly suggest learning from Marco Bucci. He's a great teacher and artist, and I really learned a lot from his videos. Now, there are a couple of ways to apply effective shadow, and they all depend on methods. For example, learning from real life is the best way to master it, but there are other ways and tools that could help you understand values better, and this is the Asaro Head. If you want to learn shadows, why not start with the most complicated part of the body, which is the head. The Asaro Head is designed to help artists understand and visualize the planes and structure of the human head, making it easier to render realistic lighting, shading, and three-dimensional form. The Asaro Head simplifies the complex anatomy of the face into flat geometric shapes, helping us see how light and shadow interact on different parts of the face. So if you want to draw more like this, I suggest giving the Asaro Head a shot. Once you have a rough idea on how values work, then you can now start adding some colors here and there. And that's it. That's mostly how I study. There's more studies that I really want to share, but I'll save it for the next video. I hope this video helps. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.